My name is Alexis Reed. I am currently living in Brooklyn, New York. I am here in Philly, and I would like to talk with you guys today about my relationships between past, present. I'm not going to worry about the future. That's where I don't really want to touch on too much as far as I'm concerned, because I have no idea where I'm going to be tomorrow. But as far as relationships go, I've had a lot of fails. I've had a lot of successes, but I will say I'm currently in a relationship right now, and so far so good.
How long have you been in that relationship?
I'm currently in an almost 3-year-long relationship, long distance. So really still pushing through with the long distance, hoping to change that sooner rather than later. But there's been a lot of unfortunate things that have taken a little bit of a step back with that scenario changing, but I'm patient. And sometimes when the person's worth it, you just kind of got to roll with the punches and hope for the best, but still put in the effort.
How did you find that relationship that you're currently in? Like, how did it all start?
My current relationship I found through a friend of mine. So me being a model, I befriended this guy who I met with in New York. He traveled there, and he happened to be a photographer. Fast forward to, I want to say about a couple years after that, I ended up getting a message from this said friend that he was coming back to New York around my birthday weekend, which is Halloween, and he was bringing some friends. Fast forward to that night, just kind of got a little swept up into some moments where I was very interested in this guy the moment I saw him. Like, the immediate moment that I saw him in the studio at the building that I worked at, I was just like, who is that? I wanted to know. And that entire day I just tried to keep his attention, and it worked.
That's amazing. Why do you want to be loved?
Sorry?
Why do you want to be loved?
I honestly want to say that love is one of the strongest emotions that we have. And when you think about the opposing to love, it is hate. And I think one of them takes a little bit more effort to put out, which in my opinion is hate. It takes a lot more energy, a lot more time, but it also takes away from your psychological, your physical energy. And I think love actually brings forth a lot more gravity to you. We experience it when we see a cute animal, like we immediately have nothing but love for them. When we see something that we love, as far as an outfit or favorite color. So when I think of those things, I think of how it makes me feel and the happiness around that. And even happiness is such a fleeting moment, so we're always never-endingly chasing that. But I think love has a little bit more of a permanence when it gets caught up in our lives and in our mental capacity, because we can love so many people. We can be in love with so many people in different scenarios. Like, it never is the same love. And we have so much to give because humans are so intellectual and we are very emotionally sound, some more than others. But I would say that love for me is just something that is infinite, and we don't get a lot of that in lives at all. Like, there's nothing infinite in this life other than love, because your love can surpass your lifetime. And I think giving that to someone rather than things is one of the most important things you can do.
How do you keep the love with your partner when you fight or disagree? How do you keep it going?
So when I have arguments and fights, disagreements of any nature with my partner, I would say that in the relationship I have right now, in comparison to the past, this is one of my most serious relationships in my life. And in comparing the past to the present that I'm now in, it is very clear as day that a lot of things appear as like the absolute worst thing that you could possibly be going through in that moment in time. when it's happening, and allowing yourself to have a tiny, brief moment, whether it's 30 minutes, whether it's an hour, whether it's 5 minutes, to allow yourself to decompress and really analyze what you're feeling in that moment, why you were so upset, whether it was something you did or your partner did or an outstanding situation, something that was within or without your control. I think it's important to really allow yourself to individually come back down, assess the situation, rationalize, and then approach your situation with your partner, because they also need to do that too. Like, at the end of the day, you may be in a partnership with somebody, you're in a relationship, but you were both individuals at the end of the day. You don't think the same, you don't want the same things, you don't like the same things. So obviously there's going to be disagreement. And even when it comes to different variables, like you're in a relationship, jealousies can obviously take fold, but in my opinion, and I'm sure somebody out there can debunk this, I don't know, but jealousy is a chemical strain on your body. It's all an illusion in your head that you're creating. Unless you sit there and you bring it up to your partner, like, then it becomes an issue. But if you can battle that yourself individually and then go to your partner and be like, well, I had this feeling, I did get through it, you can then disclose that to your partner, and then you can get validation, acceptance. So sometimes there's arguments you're having with yourself, and we get in our own ways, and then there are some times that you need to be exactly that, a partner.
How does your past trauma affect your current love?
Oh, goodness, this is quite the question. But I'm more than willing to answer it fully and honestly. I am somebody who unfortunately has dealt with a lot of past traumas, as I haven't met many people who haven't. I've met a select few, and if anything, they're the ones that I worry about, to be quite honest. If anything, get them away from me, lock them in a box, get a crackhead to chase them around for an hour, I don't know. Like, they need to experience something. But for me, my past traumas have ultimately affected, if I want to point out one major thing, has been physical touch for me, because I have necessarily been somebody who has not had the best of luck with physical touch in past relationships, or even encountering certain individuals in my life, women and men. So for me, it's been a little lackluster, or even getting hugs is a problem for me, even if it's just in a friendly manner. So sometimes unconsensually getting a hug or getting a touch or something from someone, I tend to react. And a lot of the friends that are closest to me that do know about my past to some degree, or all of it, they have nurtured that for me, and I've nurtured a lot of it for myself even. However, it's come to my attention recently that voicing when things are happening, or things that have happened that I just haven't touched base on, it's been an important journey for me, and I know that I have a lot more to learn about it, because something that happened to me when I was 13 years old is still affecting me now, and I'm about to be 31. And I think it's just more or less I wasn't even talking about it. It was already written in my story. I didn't pay much attention to it. And then more things happened after that, and I guess it just kept on getting buried and buried and buried. Like a perfect example, I can't even be tickled without crying. And that's such an unfortunate thing, because tickling should be something that is just like careless, and like you should giggle and you should laugh, and laugh so hard that you get this belly laugh. And for me, my immediate response is crying, but then even me, like as a person, it's hard for me to cry. So those are some scenarios that I find myself in.
What would you sacrifice for love? What would you sacrifice for love? So noisy in Philly. It's almost like New York level,
damn,
right?
Somebody's got to fix his brakes. Jesus. Or some WD-40. I don't even know.
So, I don't know if that would help the brake situation.
I don't know what that was, but the first thing I would sacrifice for love, in my opinion, the first joking answer would be milk chocolate, because anytime I eat milk chocolate, I break out in pimples. But solely, I think what I would sacrifice for love is a very short list, because I am somebody that's worked very hard on myself to be who I am, be somebody I'm proud of, and I think equally I need my partner to feel that for me, but I also need my partner to voice and make me accountable for when things aren't exactly going great. So like when I'm not being a good partner, when I'm not being a good friend, if I'm doing things that necessarily aren't of my character and I lost all control in that sense, I think it's important for outside perspectives to come into play. And with that sacrifice, I think also comes with responsibility, not to quote Spider-Man or anything. But I will say that it comes to terms with I need to know what I want to hold dear and I want to keep for myself. And if those are non-negotiables for other people, then I don't think there's much conversation that could be had there. I think that there could be compromise, for sure. But there's a lot of things that I think, like, when somebody's like, your humor's too much, that would be an instant, like, sorry, then I'm just not your person. If somebody were to say that I work too much or I need to change my career path, they don't like what I do for work, like, those are kind of non-negotiables for me because those are parts of me that I worked hard for. So the minimal things that I would sacrifice for love, in my opinion, would be if I had to necessarily relocate. That one was always a tough one for me. I didn't want to date until I lived where I wanted to live, which was New York City. So I stayed predominantly single for 7 years. Tried dating, and everything I did was very temporary because I knew none of them were going to last and I wasn't going to let them. But for the right person, I would do that because I'm not about chasing a person. I'm about chasing what's going to make my life what I want it to be. So for the right person, I would 100% choose location. That'd be my biggest sacrifice. But other than that, personally, the list is so short. That's just the top of my list, really.
What have your partners sacrificed for you?
My partner has sacrificed a lot of time for me and a lot of monetary value because being in a long-distance relationship, you have to put in effort, and that costs money because if you don't see each other, unfortunately, that can detriment your relationship extremely, especially long distance. You have to pay money to see each other. You have to put away time, and time is money, and then when you're spending money and time on somebody to just go see them, I think that is a huge sacrifice because at the end of the day, I have a very untraditional career path, and a lot of my work that I do, unfortunately, cannot be remote. However, in my situation, my partner, his job is hybrid. He can be remote and he can be physically present in the office. So he's able to do that, but then he has to take away time from his regular scheduled activities, going to the gym at his gym that he pays for, spending time with his friends and family back at home, even the comforts of his own bed. So when he's coming to see me, we're getting put into the throes of things. He gets a small little time capsule with me, and he wants to spend it with me, he wants to spend it with our friends, and I'm somebody who is definitely okay with that. It's just sometimes we also need us time too. So trying to make a proper balance to where we can have a healthy world of both of those. I don't travel to him as much, but I appreciate the fact that he's traveled to me more than I've traveled to him. It's just our scenarios are different, but that's, again, compromise, is understanding that when you're both in unaligned situations, you figure out what works best.
What do you value most in life?
My biggest value in love is how much of it you can give out. I think that with a partner, there's a specific kind of love that you necessarily don't give out to your friends, and that is in regards to, first and foremost, intimacy. Like, you can share close proximity spaces and have certain conversations with your partner that you wouldn't necessarily have with your friends. And the fact that your partner will ultimately sometimes be like the gatekeeper of your secrets and others, because sometimes you even disclose to your partner things that you wouldn't talk to other people about, or you might even talk to them about people. And I think that's one of the most fortunate things you have, is like you have this person who is a safety net for you, where it's not dependence, but it's more or less like you are an independent person and you need to share a lot of your life with this person, and you want them to know what's going on with you overall, like if your friendships are affecting you, if your financial stability is. So having more or less like that safety, or even just like someone who really is the backbone of like your comfort levels. So I find that being a big value for me, because you can't really go around and give your all to everyone and everything. But if you find somebody that brings you that solace and peace and comfort, I think that could be the most valuable thing that you could get from anybody.
Have you ever been afraid that you wouldn't find someone you truly loved?
I can say that that was a fear of mine for a long time, because when I was actually younger, I had this thought in my brain that I actually did not know what sex was when I was very young. Nobody explained it to me. So I was just like, I'll do that when I'm old enough. So I thought 18 was old enough. Some things unfortunately happened where I didn't get to learn that at 18. And not to disclose some like, ooh, what's she talking about? We're not going to get there today. But I will say that it comes to a point where I told myself, once, my first plan didn't work out, that I was like, okay, if I end up alone, I want to have kids someday. And if I do that with a partner, if I do that alone, okay, cool. But even then, I feel like anything that has changed those plans to where my life value has been exceeded beyond that has been over my expectations. And for a long time, I really thought that people truly didn't love me the way I wanted to be loved, or that they didn't treat me the way I wanted to be treated. I was giving out more than I was getting, and even then, sometimes still to this day, I feel that. And I guess it's just like sometimes I'm a little hard to read because people don't know how to give me love. A lot of people try to give me love because I'm surrounded by people who are physically affectionate, and they know that I have issues with that. So sometimes they're like, well, they almost give me nothing at all because they know that I can't always take that and be comfortable. But I'm working on that because I want to be open to a little bit more physical expression, both myself and being put on to me, just because I've had such a negative relationship with it. And even, I have a tattoo because I always felt like I loved myself more and I couldn't impose that expectation onto other people. So it's like, if I didn't love myself more, how could I possibly expect other people to love me more? So that kind of validated in my tattoo, like, that I needed to love me more first to allow other people to actually see the love that I have for myself and decide if I was somebody that they could love, as well as somebody that was proud enough and sure of themselves to be able to take in that love. So for a while, I did think that it wasn't really possible for me in a relationship. Friendships came easy, more or less, but relationships were kind of like sworn off to me for years.
Have you ever broken someone's heart? And if so, how did that make you feel?
Oh, yeah. I have broken not a lot of hearts, but I have broken some that still sting to this day, and I hated doing it. But when I look back at the hearts that I've broken, even one in particular, like, that just kind of like burns in my brain till this day. I did it out of the fortunate situation for them, not so much me. Like, it pained me to do it, but I was in a situation where this particular person lost a lot of their life due to their actions. And once they finally were able to take reign and have their life back, they wanted to be with me. They were like, I'm ready. I'm here. I can start life now. I'm over what I needed to get over. And I was just like, no, you aren't. You're not ready for that. You're not ready for me. And it came to a point where I was like, you need to go and you need to experience what you want your life to look like, what you want to do for your life. Because if you bring me into your life right now as you want me and as I want to be, you're going to cheat on me. You're going to run around. You're going to do all these things. And I'm like, right now, you need to live for you. And it broke my heart to do it, but I think I made the best decision because they did decide what they wanted out of life. And where their alignment was with them wanting to have a housewife and babies and a house and a picket fence, I could see that maybe someday for myself, but not anytime soon. So it was just like, could have been the right person, but very, very wrong time. And they wanted that from me in my early 20s, and I was just like, absolutely not. So it broke my heart to tell them that they needed to go and be them. But I think it was the best situation I could have done for them because I think it made them realize that I wasn't their person. Because for me to not even be in contact with that person till this day just shows that I wasn't the right person. Because if they did truly love me and want me to be in their lives, they would have probably tried to find a way for me to still be in their life somehow. Because this was like one of the greatest friendships in my life. And it turned into something where we wanted it to be more than friendship. And that was the deciding factor, was I said, this person can't have me because they need to have themselves first. And changed my perspective on a lot of things and the way I lead, especially when it comes to relationships now. I don't put other people before myself, but I make sure that I take a step back and I look at both people involved and play things out the smarter way, not the harder way.
Has anyone ever broken your heart? And if so, how did you navigate that?
My heart has been shattered into millions of pieces my entire life. And there's even a song out there that I really relate to where it says, you're blessed with a broken heart. And that is true because I have given out shards of my heart to so many people. I've never had any trust issues. I hand out pieces of my heart like it's Halloween candy. And realistically, I've given people pieces of my heart and I let them do with it what they will. If somebody gets a piece of me and they take it for granted, that's on them. But also, I was willing enough to give them that part of me. And if they're going to keep that, that's fine, cool. I don't need it back. If anything, I can just fill it with pieces that people are going to give me from theirs. But it's been shattered across the floor. It's been scattered around the earth. It's been thrown in the garbage, you name it. But it's not completely broken. I still have some pieces for myself. And I think it's always been important to hold on to the pieces that I wanted. But when I give it out freely, willingly, hopefully. But I will say it's definitely been bruised and shattered. And there hasn't been a single person that's made me regret it. Because it's one of those, like, you can forgive, but you certainly cannot forget. And at this point, it's not even so much that the broken heart hurts me the most. It's more or less the stains in my brain. Because my brain is more active than my heart is, I would say. My heart is kind of just where I keep everything that I love, and then my head is where I take care of the chaos. So my head more or less protects that part of me. And I think the broken hearts that I got in some way might have deserved it. I was very frivolous with who came around me and what I wanted them for. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. Like, I own up to that. There were certainly times where I said, I want this. I'm just going to take it for what it is. And it was never a waste of time. I've certainly met some people that kind of were. I won't name names. But if they are those people and they see this, they know exactly who they are. I don't even need to say their names. But I will say that it's more or less the time that I lost that I'll never get back. That breaks my heart the most, not the people.
How did COVID affect your relationships?
COVID was actually a really weird year for me. I worked in healthcare, taking care of people with disabilities, and I was removed from work a lot, so I had a lot of free time because of like the rules of exposure and whatnot. And that was the first year that I ever went out of the actual country other than Canada. So like the first year I ever like left the continent that we live on here in good old North America. And that changed a huge thing for me because I met a very significant person that I would still call a great friend to this day. One of the greatest people I've ever met in my life. And I'm not with them anymore as far as a relationship goes, but this one person taught me a lot, and they were there through my COVID year. And I traveled back and forth from my hometown to New York City. This was before I lived in New York. And that experience made me really appreciate New York City for what it was, because I saw it when it was dead, and I had a companion. So I was experiencing a lot of life that a lot of people weren't allowed to have at that time. So being able to have that as an option for myself was kind of illuminating. And I continued to see this person leading up to me moving to New York. And seeing a lot of other people, like I saw relationships being dismantled because these people were living with each other for 24/7, and it was ending relationships. And I was just having the best time. And I couldn't really understand how people were even trying to date, or even if people were, because I was full-fledged in it. And I thought that people were trying to find loopholes around like all the rules and regulations that were going on. Like it was almost like you couldn't even kiss somebody on the cheek without anticipating that they could potentially get COVID or end up in the hospital because of it. And I was fortunate enough to have like a really good partner at the time that was like ready to break the rules with me. So that was a fun experience. But on the other side of it, I saw a lot of ugliness come from COVID and relationships and love. I saw people lose their partners. I saw people lose their partners. Like COVID, unfortunately, did its thing. But I also saw some people find each other during COVID because the lack of interaction around the world did bring some people closer together. And I'm now staring at relationships till this day that found each other in COVID. So it was a very unique experience for me to see it from the outside, but also what I experienced during it. I found one of my lifelong best friends because I think we experienced a lot of life together because we weren't looking at the world as being shut down. We were looking at it as like, what are we gonna go do next, that we might consider naughty, like going to the grocery store without a mask on.
What role does technology like dating apps, video calls, social media play in your relationship now?
So right now, if I didn't have the apps, if I didn't have my phone, if I didn't have video calls, text messages, I honestly wouldn't have a relationship right now. My partner is in Virginia, which is many states away from me. If you look at the geography of New York City and Richmond, Virginia. So with that being said, we do regular FaceTime calls. We text every day, morning to night, unless we have some things that we have to do where we can't talk to each other, like today. I've barely spoken to him. I know he's alive. He's somewhere out there. But even social media, I am in a model photographer relationship. So social media is kind of our connector because he actually followed me before I followed him. So I had no idea who the heck this guy was. But when he walked into the room, he knew exactly who I was. So unfair advantage, I might add. So when I met him, it was more or less we kind of got thrown to sea in boats with each other within a weekend, and we didn't stop talking to each other. So once I realized this guy was sticking around, I was like, okay, cool. And we made it work because we had technology. And I see the benefits and I see the negatives of technology too. But The one thing that I will say is I've never been more secure in a relationship, especially in regards to what social media has as an impact on our relationship. He's a photographer. He shoots with other models. He's shot with my roommates. He's photographed my roommates barely clothed. And his best friend that introduced us has photos of me in the nude. Like, these are just weird things that you don't experience with your significant other. But we have a solid ground, a solid relationship where jealousy does not occur because it's important for him to interact with other models and to make more connections with other people, and then vice versa me with photographers. And I've befriended the models that he's befriended. We almost have like a whole family, if you will, of photographers, models, and friends that are creative. And that kind of built this backbone for where we have such a good structure with our friendship within our relationship, because we were never even friends. Uno momento, por favor. So for us, we were never friends. We jumped right into a relationship and we kind of stuck by it from the day we met. And we don't even have like an official anniversary. We just kind of dictate it as like the day we met is when it was, because we started and we never stopped. So that begged the question of like, okay, do we even have a date to celebrate? We don't. But that kind of really brings to light like how much we communicated and how much effort and time we put into it within those times where we weren't physically present or able to be around each other. So without my phone, unfortunately, I would probably still be single, because dating in New York City, somebody asked me once for their little podcast how dating in New York City was, and I was like, I don't do it. I've never done it. I maybe did it for like a brief 2 weeks, and I was like, this is awful. I'm never doing this again. So yeah, I really haven't dated in New York City.
When you think about the love that you want to receive, do you feel like you embody those same qualities and show for others?
I would say that at this point in time in my life, as I had stated in part of this interview, that at one point I didn't think that I was going to find the love that I deserved. And I found myself being so prideful in the person that I've created and respect and love that I stand before you today as, that I have started to be treated the way that I want to be treated, and I receive the love that I give out now. It took a long time to get to that, but I think it just took a lot of self-growth and learning of myself, and also learning how to love other people better, because I can't say that I was great at it either. I'm pretty sure there was like more times that I did it injustice than justice in my past, and I own up to that. I'm not going to sit here and say that I was the perfect person, or that I even treated people that well, or that I was giving them the love that they deserved in return. But I was a firm believer in that I didn't want to give out second chances, because nobody was ever giving me a second chance. So for a while I was like, screw that. If I'm not getting one, why should I be giving them out? But as we get older, like, our time is definitely more fleeting, and we start to learn that. So with that, like, spending more time in relationships on anything, in my opinion, is always worthwhile, because that time is just allowing you to build more. But I will say that with time that I've given myself and I've given others, I have been able to learn to love better for them, but also for me. And I think that it's been reciprocated. It's not 50-50 yet. There's some people that I think that pop up right in my head immediately. Like, their names are scrolling up on this list in my frontal lobe right now as we speak. At least I think that's the lobe. But I will say that there's some people that, I would like to see a little bit more effort from. But I'm sure there's some people out there that could say the same thing about me. So giving out more of like the love that I know I want from people, it's a false expectation to think that I'm going to get that back. But I haven't lost hope in that in any way, shape, or form. Again, which is why I give out love and trust like it's candy, because I want people's actions to speak volumes as to what their character is, because I think that I abide by that very truthfully and honestly for myself. So that's something that I can at least have as a pretty rational expectation of them. No, you're good.
What would constitute the perfect day with your partner for you?
Oh gosh, okay. The perfect day for my partner and I would be, of course, stopping at a brewery and getting a very, very, as he would call it, douchebaggy, semi-expensive beer for him. Me, the fruitiest sour that you could think of. I'm talking orange juice flavored. And just enjoying each other's company in that fact, because that's something that he enjoys, and when I can find something that I'll enjoy too. I'm not a drinker, so when I can share that with him, because he enjoys it for the luxury and the taste. He's not drinking to get drunk, which I applaud, because I don't like to drink, because I don't want to be drunk. I don't want to be buzzed. I don't want a headache. As we're getting older, that stuff does not sit the way that it once could have at 18. Which, you're not supposed to drink at 18, by the way, full disclosure. That was just a slip up. But I will say that that's usually like part of the perfect day. And then I like doing physical activity. Like, I like going for walks. It could be on the city streets. It could be in the middle of the mountains somewhere. But I'm just somebody that I like to spend time consuming what's around me. So if it's something that I can look at and I enjoy looking at and doesn't smell half that bad, that's usually my go-to. But it's the simpleness about it. Like, we don't need to spend over-the-top money. We don't need to travel near or far. It's just, I like the simplicity, because my life is always so go, go, go and chaos that I think bringing myself back down from the clouds and having a little bit more of like a structured but loose at the same time kind of day, like where we can walk somewhere, but we could not map it and just get lost for a little bit. Because I am somebody who unfortunately has to accommodate to being planned all the time. But if I can allow there to be a little bit of freedom in that, I will. So those would make those would be like the top two things that I would need to have in my day. Something that he enjoys and something that I enjoy. And even going the extra mile with a little bit of physical activity. But anything that would come alongside of that would just be a bonus in my opinion. But those are just like the two tops for me and him, I'd say.
How do you handle trust issues in your relationship?
So when it comes to trust issues, him and I don't really have many trust issues. We've had a couple conversations in regards to my intuition, where I am a little too trusting, and that sometimes has more or less, am I allowed to curse on here? Has bit me in the ass severely. Sorry, I had to ask permission. But it's definitely been a hard thing for, I know, him to deal with per se, because that's something that I've never really been called out on or changed, because I'm somebody who's been very intuitive throughout their life. I'm somebody who asks for references for photo shoots. Sometimes I even get hit up by people on the internet just wanting to hang out and be friends. And at that point, I'm like, do I ask for a reference of your character from a friend of yours? Because if they're not a photographer, how do I get a reference of a stranger? It's just kind of, I have these gut feelings, and I've certainly had a lot of situations in the past where my gut feeling was right. And I ended up in a situation where I shouldn't have agreed to, shouldn't have entertained. But the one fortunate thing about that is some of the worst situations that I've ended up in my life has brought out some of the most beautiful opportunities, beautiful people, that have surpassed that one bad thing that I may have experienced that then brought those opportunities and people to me. So with that being said, I could say that we're working on some things in regards to, the manner of how I act and look at other people, or even how I give other people my time and attention. But that's truthfully the only problem that we've ever really crossed paths with. I fully trust him and he fully trusts me, and we're both very aware of that, and we give each other a lot of grace in that, and we both appreciate it, but that didn't come without its faults. It's just we learned right from the get-go that we were good partners in that aspect.
What are you most grateful for in your life?
I would say that as independent people, we'll pause. No. It's not every day there's a full-fledged production on the side of the road. Under the bridge, no less. Like, we should be charging a troll toll at this point. Like,
Well, it's hard to find somewhere I can control light.
yeah, that's true. That's very true. So when it comes to my partner and I, we're both, I want to say, grateful for a few things predominantly that we share, and then we have individual things that we're both pretty grateful for. So I'll try to sum it up a little bit to not make this too long. But for both of us, I want to say that the family situations that we have, neither of us have come from very simple or easy backgrounds when it comes to family. With our family backgrounds, neither of them have been easy. So when we have the good in our backgrounds, or even just in present day of our family, it is very easy to tell how much gratitude we have for the good and even the bad that we've experienced as us individually, but also coming together and seeing that there is a lot of similarity with each other as far as our families go. So I wouldn't like to say that we trauma bond, but there's definitely some mutual understanding there, because I think sometimes when you both walk on uneven ground, that starts to bring in question like instability, whether it's future or present, because our pasts are always going to follow us and you can't change it. It's already written. All you can do is spearhead that you could possibly change the present and the future as you go on. So for us to both come from some pretty difficult times in our past with our families, but still have some gratitude for what's come of it with our families, I think shows a lot of character for both of us. For myself, I would say one of the things that I'm the most grateful for is just the amount of opportunity that I've been presented. I've worked my absolute ass off for the past almost 14 years of my life to make something that I turned into like a small little addiction, now my full-blown profession. And that's something that I have found a lot of beauty and grace in, but I've also found a lot of flaws in as well too, because I'm certainly not the perfect person, but sometimes when you have to have this portrayal of yourself from a social media standpoint, or even for a relevancy standpoint, for me being a model, self-managed, like I am my first and foremost priority when it comes to work. And that's one thing that I always have to keep at the top of my list, because if I'm not keeping myself working, my world can fall apart. And without that, without this full-flown career, this full-fledged career that I have built for myself, I also wouldn't have found my partner, because I found him through being a model, and being a model that has been talked about, and somebody who has been seen all over the likes of the internet and social media and stopped on the street by people who recognize me and I have no idea who the hell they are. So I'm grateful for that aspect of my work ethic and how far I've gotten and how far it's gotten me and who it's brought into me in my life, because it brought me my relationship I have now. And I'm sure he's eternally grateful for that as well, because sometimes my work ethic confuses the hell out of him. He's like, I need your daily schedule, I need your weekly schedule or your monthly schedule, because he doesn't know what I'm doing, and I don't even have the time. It's written down up here, and I gotta write it down for him physically so he can see where I am, what I'm doing, who I'm with. So it doesn't come without its faults. He is grateful for the fact that I am who I am, and I do what I do, because that's exactly how he met me. But I'm sure he would be more grateful if I was a little bit more tedious about my schedule.
And
Yeah! You drink that twisted tea, girl. Get drunk on that trolley.
they could see somebody like falling over and be screaming
Yeah,
the same
damn.
thing. So, is there anything else you'd like to say about love, or anything that you've used to help yourself along your journey that you may value may help someone else?
I do have something to say. I just gotta wait for this bus to figure out what it's doing. There you go. Good job. Get out of here. Get out of here, you crazy kid driving that bus. I think one of the most important things that tends to cross my mind a lot when it comes to relationships and love and putting your best foot forward, per se, unless both your ankles suck, then don't know what to tell you. But one of my most important things that I have learned and seen and witnessed from other relationships, I could say, is there's always levels to which certain relationships function so much differently than each other's. So from an outsider's perspective, who are you to really judge? However, there is healthy and unhealthy balance when it comes to relationships. I've seen people spend every waking hour with their partner. I've seen them go out and want to go out with their partner, and not allowing there to be independence in a relationship, or even having separation from each other. And I think what's really important for relationships is that a lot of people start to realize that having an individual life alongside your partner, where they're their own person, you are your own person. I've seen dependence be one of the main killers of a relationship. Like, a lot of people say, okay, like, if you don't have trust, you don't have anything. But I will say there comes a lot of weight and a lot of danger in the statement where somebody says, I can't live without you. That is such a horrible expectation to put on someone else. Because if you can't possibly have a substantial, a happy, or even a healthy relationship, or even a healthy life in general, without another individual that you have now found yourself imposing upon, or even taking part of being your companion, I would say that that is such a disposition to be in, because you should be happy. You should be healthy. You should be your own sole entity in this world. You are your first priority alone. And your partner should be up on that priority list, but they should never come above you. But you should also never put them so much below you that it's a negative standpoint. Because we should all be individuals and come together and share our lives together, to where you could be similar and you could be different, but you still need to be yourself. And you still need to be your first and always sole priority. And that sounds selfish, but selfishness also has positives and negatives to it. Not everything about the word selfish needs to be portrayed in such a negative manner, because there certainly are healthy ways of practicing that type of point in your life. Because there's selfishness and then there's selflessness. And I've seen people give out selflessness like it's nothing, and then their flames or even their candles are so burnt out that there's nothing left for them at the end of the day. So if you take it in that stance, that's kind of like what you're doing to your partner or doing to yourself, is you're more or less taking to the point where you're dissatisfied with yourself, that you need your partner to pick you back up and put the pieces together. And I just don't think that's a healthy way for anybody to live. And if you find yourself being somebody who is too dependent on your partner, that's a reflection of you. And your partner is supposed to be something that you look at and you're proud of, that you're happy to have, that you love. And if you, on more or less more occasions than most, want to punch your partner in the face, then there's a problem. There's not just a problem with your partner, but there's a problem with you. And I think that just comes to terms with some self-reflection, self-awareness, and it doesn't need to be as cut and dry as, well, maybe it's my partner. And it's like, I think you need to start with yourself and then look at your relationship, because you're the one in that relationship. You chose that. You chose that partner. You have to come to terms with, okay, then what's the root of all this problem? Am I independent? Am I too dependent? I'm somebody who's too independent. So I thought that even me finding a partner would be really, really difficult. But it's not. Like, I don't need anybody. At this point, the people that I have, I want. It's dangerous to need someone that much. And I think that's just a false expectation that too many relationships put on their partners.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I think that this was an enjoyable experience, and I'm quite the yapper. So I always like to share as much as I possibly can to help anybody and everybody. And I'm certainly not spitting gospel, but I would honestly say that if anything that I say can help someone along in their life, their experiences, to where they can start opening up more, or even start realizing what they should probably start looking at. Like, I could inspire so many people, and so many people open their mouths and inspire me. So I'm just trying to become a more positive force like I've been exposed to, because there's too much negative out there that I think we need to start honing in on what we have control over.